The air hung thick and heavy, a palpable shroud woven from centuries of dust and forgotten prayers, within the colossal embrace of what remained of an ancient, forbidden temple. Massive stone pillars, scarred by time and etched with the silent stories of epochs past, reached towards a crumbling ceiling, their sheer scale dwarfing any mortal who dared to trespass. This was a place whispered about only in hushed tones, a sanctuary believed to cradle truths too profound, too dangerous for the modern world to comprehend. It was a place where history had been deliberately obscured, where the very fabric of belief had been challenged and ultimately reshaped by forces unseen. For years, an insatiable curiosity had been the narrator's relentless guide, a burning beacon in the fog of historical omission. The pursuit of suppressed knowledge, of the narratives meticulously expunged from official records, had become an obsession, a life's singular purpose. This journey, fraught with peril and skepticism, had led to this very threshold, to the heart of a ruin that hummed with a spectral energy. The first glimpse of the temple's interior was breathtaking, a testament to an artistry and power long since vanished. Faint, glowing runes pulsated with a soft, ethereal light, tracing intricate patterns across the weathered stone, hinting at a magic and wisdom far beyond human understanding. Each symbol seemed to vibrate with a forgotten language, a silent plea for remembrance. The oppressive atmosphere was undeniable, a weight pressing down, not just physically but spiritually. It was a tangible sense of history, of countless lives lived and lost within these hallowed yet now desecrated walls. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret, every gust of wind a whispered tale of forbidden secrets. The very air tasted of antiquity and solemnity, a potent cocktail that both thrilled and terrified. The legend of the lost books of the Bible had always been a distant, almost mythical concept, a tantalizing enigma mentioned only in obscure texts and fringe theories. Yet, standing here amidst the decaying grandeur, it felt less like myth and more like an imminent revelation. The narrator's personal motivation was simple, yet profound. A life dedicated to uncovering what history had so ruthlessly erased, to bringing light to the deliberate obscuration of knowledge. It was a quest born of conviction, a belief that true understanding could only come from confronting the uncomfortable, the inconvenient, and the forbidden. As the narrator moved deeper, a subtle hint of danger began to prickle the skin. The feeling of being watched, to have unseen eyes scrutinizing every move, was unsettling. A cold awareness that this sanctuary was not entirely uninhabited, or perhaps not entirely abandoned by its ancient guardians. Then, a discovery that sent a jolt of adrenaline through the narrator's veins. A hidden passage, almost perfectly concealed behind a crumbling section of a pillar. It was narrow, dark, and promised further descent into the temple's enigmatic core. With a deep breath, the narrator pressed onward, guided by an unseen force. Just as the passage began to constrict, a sudden, breathtaking phenomenon unfolded. Shafts of divine light, piercing and pure, sliced through unseen cracks in the ceiling high above, illuminating the dusty air particles that danced like golden motes in a sacred ballet. The light, vibrant and otherworldly, cut through the pervasive gloom, creating stark contrasts of brilliance and deep shadow. It was a path illuminated, a celestial arrow pointing towards something profound. What ancient guardian, what forgotten truth awaited at the end of this illuminated path, beckoning from the deepest recesses of this forbidden temple? The answer felt tantalizingly close, yet shrouded in the very mystery that had drawn the narrator here. The illuminated path beckoned, drawing the narrator deeper into the temple's core, each step echoing the weight of centuries. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of ancient stone and something else, something indefinably sacred and sorrowful. As the passage widened, it revealed more intricate and ancient carvings, not just abstract symbols, but vivid depictions of celestial beings. These were not the cherubic, benevolent figures often imagined. Instead, they were majestic, formidable entities, their faces etched with a complex blend of power, pride, and an undeniable melancholy. Their wings, once glorious, appeared subtly fractured in some depictions, their eyes holding a distant, almost heartbroken gaze. The narrative began to shift, the silent carvings speaking volumes about the concept of fallen angels. Here, amidst these forgotten ruins, their story transcended mere myth. It became a palpable reality, a tragedy of cosmic proportions. The carvings portrayed their initial rebellion, a defiant stand against divine grace, followed by a wrenching banishment from celestial realms. The Gothic biblical aesthetic of the temple, with its dark gold and sepia palette, intensified this sense of antiquity and profound loss. Every shadowed archway, every glimmer of fading gilding, seemed to mourn their descent. The narrator's conviction solidified. These ruins were not merely a temple, but a historical record, intimately connected to the very origins of these forbidden tales, a testament to a grand, cataclysmic event. Further along, embedded within a crumbling altar, a cryptic inscription came into view. Its ancient script, though partially eroded, spoke of a great betrayal and a severed pact. The words hinted at a moment when the fabric of creation itself was rent, orchestrated by a prominent, powerful fallen angel. The weight of this revelation settled heavily. It wasn't just a story of disobedience, but of a profound rupture, a betrayal that echoed through eternity. The emotional core of the fallen angel's saga resonated deeply, the tragedy of beings who once held immense power, bathed in divine light, now relegated to whispers and fear, their names synonymous with darkness. A vivid, almost visceral vision flashed through the narrator's mind, a celestial war, not of earthly weapons, but of cosmic will and clashing ideologies. The skies ablaze, the clash of ethereal energies, the heart-wrenching descent of once radiant beings plummeting into shadow. It was a vision of ultimate loss, of glory extinguished, of a power perverted. This quest for forbidden knowledge had become an all-consuming obsession, isolating the narrator from the mundane world, yet connecting them to something far grander and more terrifying. The personal cost was immense, a solitary journey into the heart of veiled truths. Suddenly, a low, distant rumble reverberated through the very foundations of the temple. It wasn't the sound of collapse, but something deeper, more resonant, like a slumbering giant stirring from a long sleep. The temple itself seemed to awaken, acknowledging the presence of those who dared to unearth its secrets. The air grew still, the dust motes frozen in the golden light shafts. And then, the full revelation of the inscription became clear. It spoke not just of a rebellion, but of a great betrayal that had irrevocably altered the course of creation, a betrayal meticulously planned and executed by a figure whose name was synonymous with pride and rebellion, Lucifer. The ancient stones seemed to whisper his name, a chilling echo through the hallowed, forbidden space. The rumble intensified, a warning or perhaps an acknowledgement of the profound truth now unveiled. The profound revelation of Lucifer's betrayal, etched into the ancient altar, served as a chilling prelude to the true depths of the temple's secrets. The rumble, now a continuous low thrum, seemed to emanate from the very stones, guiding the narrator deeper into the labyrinthine structure. Here, the air grew thick with the scent of millennia, a mix of dry dust and something metallic, almost electric. The path opened into a vast chamber, its walls adorned with a series of intricate murals, their colors faded but their stories vivid. These were not mere decorative art, they were historical records depicting the very essence of the lost books of the Bible, texts deliberately erased from human memory, deemed too dangerous, too heretical to ever see the light of day. These forbidden texts, the murals revealed, spoke of a covenant, a pact forged not in divine grace, but in shadowed ambition. It was a forbidden alliance between the fallen angels, banished and bitter, and humanity, eager for knowledge and power beyond their mortal grasp. The murals depicted celestial beings, their once glorious wings now tattered and dark, descending to earth, their forms still radiating an undeniable, albeit corrupted, majesty. Below them, human figures, cloaked and eager, reached out, their faces a mixture of awe and avarice. The motivations of both sides were laid bare, the angels seeking to influence, to reclaim a semblance of their lost dominion through earthly proxies, the humans craving forbidden wisdom, magical prowess, or perhaps even a twisted form of immortality. The emotional conflict depicted was stark. the intoxicating allure of power, promising dominion and understanding, juxtaposed against the terrifying consequences of such forbidden alliances. One mural showed a radiant human figure, seemingly blessed with angelic knowledge, holding a sphere of crackling energy. The next, however, depicted that same figure writhing in agony, consumed by the very power they sought. The visual impact of the hyper-detailed ancient sacred atmosphere throughout the chamber was overwhelming. Each brushstroke, each carved line, emphasizing the immense weight of the past, the echoes of choices made, and destinies irrevocably altered. It was a history deliberately buried, its truths too unsettling for the sanctioned narratives. The narrator recalled a personal encounter from years past, a fleeting glimpse into a text fragments whispered to be from Enoch, a text speaking of watchers and forbidden unions. At the time, it had been a tantalizing anomaly, an academic curiosity. Now standing before these murals, that faint memory solidified into profound conviction. This temple was the undeniable proof, the physical manifestation of those suppressed truths. The sense of being on the precipice of understanding something truly profound, something dangerous, was palpable. Every fiber of their being tingled with the electric charge of proximity to such raw, unvarnished history. As the narrator traced the outline of a particularly poignant mural depicting a weeping angel cradling a human child, a sudden, sharp drop in temperature permeated the air. It wasn't merely the cold of ancient stone, it was a chilling presence. An invisible entity that seemed to materialize from the shadows. The very breath hitched in the narrator's throat, a primal instinct screaming of unseen eyes. A cold dread seeped into the bones, a feeling of being observed, perhaps even judged, by something ancient and powerful. The final mural in the series depicted a terrifying tableau. The earth rent asunder, colossal figures striding amidst chaos, and a dark swirling vortex consuming both human and angelic forms. This was the terrible price paid for the Forbidden Covenant, a catastrophic event that unleashed untold suffering upon the world. But what exactly was that price, and how did its resonance still ripple through the present? The chilling presence intensified, as if the very air held its breath awaiting the answer. The murals, with their silent painted narratives, had revealed the what, but the why and how of its enduring impact remained shrouded in terrifying mystery. The terrifying tableau of the earth rent asunder, colossal figures striding amidst chaos, and a dark, swirling vortex consuming both human and angelic forms, painted a grim picture of the immediate aftermath of the Forbidden Covenant. This was the catastrophic price, the unleashing of untold suffering upon the world, a direct consequence of the unions depicted in the preceding murals. From these illicit pairings the Nephilim were born, giants of ancient lore, beings of immense power and destructive potential. Their very existence was a testament to the reckless abandon of their parents, a living, breathing embodiment of the chaos that had been sown. The initial period was one of unbridled ruin, their colossal forms reshaping landscapes, their appetites unchecked, their presence a blight upon the nascent human civilization. They were the world's first true monsters, a testament to what happens when divine power merges with earthly ambition without divine sanction. Yet as the narrator studied the intricate carvings and faded pigments, a counter-narrative, almost imperceptible at first, began to emerge. Amidst the depictions of devastation, there were subtle hints, whispers of certain fallen angels who, witnessing the horror they had unleashed, sought a path to redemption, or at least a mitigation of their catastrophic errors. These were not the uniformly malevolent entities often portrayed in Scripture. Some among them seemed to grapple with the profound moral implications of their actions, burdened by the weight of their progeny's destruction. The narrator's own internal struggle mirrored this complex portrayal. Was this truly a story of absolute unyielding evil? Or was there a deeper tragedy at play, one born of misguided ambition, a longing for connection, or even a desperate attempt to belong in a world they no longer recognized as their own? The black and white narratives of good and evil began to blur, replaced by shades of grey, of regret and nascent hope. The dramatic volumetric lighting, ever shifting with the dust motes dancing in the air, cast long deep shadows that played across the ancient ruins, creating a chiaroscuro effect that perfectly mirrored this internal conflict. One moment, a figure was bathed in golden light, appearing almost compassionate. The next, it was swallowed by shadow, its intentions ambiguous, its past unforgivable. This interplay of light and dark intensified the sense of historical ambiguity, forcing a re-evaluation of every preconceived notion. It was then tucked away behind a crumbling section of a mural, almost intentionally hidden, that a small, almost perfectly preserved hidden chamber was revealed. It was not grand or imposing, but intimate, almost sacred. Within it, laid out with reverence, were not weapons or instruments of power, but artifacts that suggested attempts at atonement or resistance from within the fallen ranks. There was a delicate, intricately carved wooden flute, unlike any human instrument, that seemed to whisper melodies of sorrow. A sheaf of parchment, its script too alien to decipher fully, yet conveying an undeniable sense of plea or petition, and a small, crystalline shard, pulsing with a faint internal luminescence. Hesitantly, the narrator reached out and touched the crystalline artifact. The moment their fingers brushed its surface, an intense, fleeting vision flooded their mind. It was a kaleidoscope of emotions, the crushing despair of banishment, the burning resentment of perceived injustice, but also a profound, aching longing for forgiveness, a desperate hope for a chance to undo the irreparable. It was a vision of both immense sorrow and a flicker of defiant hope, a testament to the fact that even among the fallen, the spectrum of spirit remained complex and tragically human. The revelation was clear. Not all fallen angels were unified in their malevolence. Some, burdened by their choices, sought to undo their mistakes, to find a path back from the precipice they had created. The hidden chamber was a sanctuary of their regret, a silent testament to a forgotten struggle for redemption. The profound vision, sparked by the crystalline shard, left the narrator shaken but irrevocably changed. It had laid bare the complex, often contradictory emotions that coursed through the very beings deemed utterly evil. This revelation that even among the fallen there existed a yearning for redemption redefined the entire narrative of biblical history, moving it beyond simplistic binaries. It was a truth too nuanced, too unsettling perhaps, for those who sought absolute control over spiritual narratives. This was precisely the kind of forbidden knowledge that demanded preservation, and it was in this moment of deep understanding that the concept of a keeper began to coalesce in the narrator's mind. It became clear that such dangerous truths, capable of shattering established doctrines, could not have survived by accident. There must have been a conscious effort, a dedicated lineage, a clandestine brotherhood or sisterhood devoted to safeguarding these perilous revelations. This was not a quest for power, but for purity of information, an unwavering commitment to ensuring that the truth, however inconvenient or dangerous, endured the relentless tides of time and suppression. This keeper or lineage of guardians, the narrator realized, would have existed in the shadows, their existence a testament to the enduring human need for unvarnished reality. Further exploration of the hidden chamber, now imbued with a new significance, soon yielded a remarkable discovery. Tucked beneath a loose stone in the chamber's floor, almost as if placed there for a specific future moment, lay an ancient journal. Its covers, made of what felt like hardened, cured leather, were brittle with age, and its pages were filled with a script so archaic it was barely recognizable, a language almost entirely lost to modern scholarship. Yet, with a sudden, inexplicable surge of intuition, the narrator found themselves able to discern fragments, then sentences, then entire paragraphs. The journal was indeed the chronicle of a keeper, detailing their sacred duties across generations. The entries meticulously described the relentless efforts by both divine and human powers to erase the lost books and all associated knowledge. It wasn't merely neglect, it was a systematic, brutal campaign of eradication. Texts were burned, scribes were silenced, entire libraries vanished, and oral traditions were forcibly suppressed. The journal spoke of the immense personal sacrifice involved, the constant vigilance required, and the heartbreaking loneliness of holding truths that the world actively sought to forget. It painted a vivid picture of generations dedicated to a thankless, perilous task, their lives consumed by the desperate hope that one day the world would be ready for the full story. The emotional weight of this lineage, their unwavering commitment to preserving what was deemed heretical, settled heavily upon the narrator. As the narrator turned the fragile pages, the golden light rays, piercing through the cracks in the temple ceiling, seemed to intensify, creating shimmering pathways through the dust-filled air. These beams were like tiny, ephemeral pockets of truth in a vast ancient sea of forgotten history, illuminating the journal's profound significance. Then, a specific entry caught the narrator's eye, sending a chill down their spine despite the warmth of the light. It spoke of a great betrayal, not from external forces, but from within the ranks of the keepers themselves. This internal treachery, the journal lamented, had jeopardized everything, leading to the loss of crucial texts and the near collapse of their sacred mission. The entry was cryptic, hinting at motives of greed, fear, or perhaps a desperate attempt to appease the very powers they sought to defy. A profound connection bloomed within the narrator, a sense of shared purpose with this ancient lineage. They felt a kinship with these silent guardians, their centuries-long struggle now resonating deeply within their own soul. It was as if destiny had guided them to this very chamber, to this very journal, to become a link in a chain that had almost broken. Suddenly, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through the temple floor, a subtle vibration that seemed to emanate from the very stone beneath their feet. It was a low, resonant thrum, a warning, perhaps, that the ancient structure was not as dormant as it appeared, or that their presence had awakened something profound. The betrayal within the keepers, the journal implied, had consequences far beyond the loss of texts. It had weakened the very fabric of their protection. Who had committed this ultimate treachery, and what cascading ramifications did it unleash for the lost books and the truths they contained? The temple, it seemed, held more secrets than even the keepers had managed to document. The tremor beneath the narrator's feet was more than just a structural shift. It was a reverberation of the ultimate deception described in the keeper's journal, a testament to the pervasive conspiracy that had systematically erased and altered history. The narrative unfolded not as a simple tale of forgotten texts, but as a meticulous, multi-generational campaign orchestrated by powerful entities, both divine and human, determined to rewrite the past for their own ends. They realized the true horror lay not in accidental loss, but in deliberate, calculated suppression. The journal entries detailed the chilling efficiency of this erasure. It began with the burning of entire libraries, reducing centuries of accumulated wisdom to ash and smoke. Then came the silencing of witnesses, often through brutal means, ensuring that no living soul could contradict the official narrative. Finally, and perhaps most insidiously, was the manipulation of narratives themselves. Scribes were coerced, historians corrupted, and sacred texts painstakingly re-edited, their inconvenient truths excised, their rebellious voices muted. This was not merely censorship, it was an active reconstruction of reality, designed to control the present by controlling the past. The emotional impact on those who possessed the true knowledge was immense, forcing them into a clandestine existence of hiding or facing martyrdom for their convictions. Their lives became a testament to the brutal cost of truth in a world determined to propagate comfortable lies. As the narrator pieced together these clues, moving through the labyrinthine corridors of the temple, the complex web of deceit began to reveal itself. Ancient carvings, once dismissed as mere decorative elements, now resonated with deeper meaning, depicting figures in positions of authority overseeing the destruction of scrolls, their faces impassive. Statues of revered figures now seemed to wear expressions of subtle triumph, not piety. The ultra-realistic cinematic biblical dark style of the temple, with its oppressive shadows and fleeting glimpses of light, perfectly emphasized the gravity of this historical cover-up, painting a world where truth was a fugitive, constantly hunted. In a small, unassuming niche tucked away behind a partially collapsed altar, the narrator's fingers brushed against something cold and smooth. With careful effort, they dislodged a loose stone, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, nestled amongst dried herbs and brittle parchment fragments, lay a single, perfectly preserved page, from one of the lost books. Its existence was a miracle, a defiant whisper against the roar of history's erasure. The parchment felt ancient yet surprisingly resilient, its script elegant and unfamiliar, glowing faintly under the dim light. With trembling hands, the narrator unfurled the page. It was not a historical recounting, nor a theological discourse. It was a prophecy, a warning inscribed with urgent precision. The words spoke not of past events, but of a future calamity, a cyclical recurrence of ancient transgressions, intricately linked to the very knowledge that had been suppressed. The erasure, the page revealed, was not just about hiding uncomfortable truths from the past. It was a desperate, calculated attempt to prevent a specific, catastrophic future event, one that the powerful entities believed would be triggered by the rediscovery of these forbidden texts. The page detailed an upcoming alignment, a convergence of cosmic and terrestrial forces, which, if met with ignorance, would unleash an ancient power best left undisturbed. Before the narrator could fully grasp the implications of this chilling prophecy, a sudden deafening crack echoed through the chamber. A section of the ceiling, directly above them, began to crumble, sending down a shower of dust and small stones. The ancient structure, perhaps reacting to the rediscovery of its deepest secret, was beginning to give way. The prophetic page clutched in the narrator's hand provided not just a revelation, but a stark, immediate danger. The truth, it seemed, was literally bringing the house down. The temple, stirred by the unearthed prophecy, now groaned under the strain of its own ancient secrets. Massive stone pillars, once steadfast guardians of forgotten lore, began to shift, grinding against each other with a terrifying cacophony. Dust billowed, thick and suffocating, as more sections of the ceiling gave way, raining down debris. The narrator, still reeling from the chilling discovery of the prophetic page, found themselves caught in a terrifying race against time. The very ground beneath their feet trembled violently, a relentless tremor that threatened to swallow them whole. Yet, amidst the chaos, a singular, unwavering focus emerged, the complete deciphering of the final clues, the full understanding of the lost books before the entire sanctuary became a tomb. The prophecy on the preserved page was not merely a warning, it was a map, albeit an arcane one, pointing towards the true nature of the erased revelations. These were not just stories of fallen angels and forbidden covenants, but critical warnings about cyclical events, cosmic alignments, and the delicate balance of existence. Humanity, by being denied these texts, had been blindfolded to an impending, repeating catastrophe. The central conflict, clearer than ever, raged within the collapsing walls, the desperate struggle between preserving this forbidden truth and succumbing to the historical erasure that had condemned generations to ignorance. Adrenaline surged through the narrator's veins as the emotional climax of their quest unfolded. The desperate attempt to retrieve the core of the lost books became a primal instinct. Glowing runes, etched into the massive pillars and archways, flared with an intense, almost blinding light, then dimmed erratically as the surrounding structure groaned and fractured. Each flicker of light seemed to echo the temple's dying breath, a final dramatic display before succumbing to ruin. The air crackled with expelled energy, the very fabric of reality seeming to fray. Through the swirling dust and falling masonry, the narrator spotted it. Not a grand, obvious vault, but a subtle indentation in the base of a miraculously still-standing, albeit severely cracked, central altar. It was a hidden mechanism, cunningly disguised as part of the ancient stonework, a final repository of knowledge designed to withstand the ravages of time and, perhaps, even this very collapse. With frantic urgency, fingers scraped against cold stone, searching for a trigger, a lever, anything that would grant access. The ground lurched with renewed violence, throwing the narrator off balance. A deafening crash erupted as a massive stone pillar directly to their left tore free from its base and plummeted downwards, missing them by mere inches, showering them with pulverized rock and a fresh wave of dust. Despite the immediate danger, the narrator's gaze remained fixed on the altar. A small, almost imperceptible pressure point, worn smooth by countless ages, finally yielded under a desperate push. With a soft click, a concealed drawer slid open, revealing not a collection of scrolls, but a single ancient codex. Its cover was bound in a dark, unknown material, intricately embossed with symbols that seemed to pulse faintly in the dimming light. This was it, the true heart of the lost books, the culmination of their perilous journey, retrieved amidst the crumbling edifice of forgotten history. The weight of it in their hands was immense, both physically and spiritually, a tangible link to truths suppressed for millennia. The temple continued its violent descent into ruin around them, but the codex was safe. The narrator clawed their way out of the suffocating dust and debris, emerging from the gaping maw of the collapsing temple like a survivor from a shipwreck. Their body ached, bruised and battered, but a fierce, almost unbearable triumph burned in their chest. Clutched tightly against them, as if it were an extension of their very being, was the ancient codex, its dark, embossed cover now streaked with dust and faint smudges of blood from scraped knuckles. The lost books were no longer merely a legend, a whispered myth. Their essence had been recovered, a tangible fragment of forbidden truth plucked from the jaws of oblivion. The emotional aftermath was a maelstrom. The initial euphoria of survival and discovery slowly gave way to a profound, almost terrifying sense of responsibility. The weight of the newly acquired knowledge settled upon their shoulders, heavier than any stone pillar. The understanding of forbidden truths, of erased revelations that spoke of cyclical catastrophes and hidden cosmic designs, reshaped their entire perception of reality. The world they had known, the history they had studied, now seemed like a carefully constructed illusion, a veil woven to protect humanity from a terrifying yet essential understanding of its own predicament. This journey had irrevocably transformed the narrator. The curious scholar who had first ventured into the oppressive shadows of the temple was gone, replaced by someone forged in the crucible of collapsing stone and shattering illusions. Their eyes, once filled with academic fervor, now held the haunted depth of one who had glimpsed the abyss and returned. The solitude of their quest had deepened too, for who could truly comprehend, let alone share, the burden of such revelations? The very act of possessing this codex set them apart, a solitary sentinel guarding truths too dangerous, too profound, for the uninitiated. The implications for humanity loomed large, a question that resonated with the silence of the pre-dawn air. What would be done with this knowledge? Would it be shared, unleashing a torrent of panic and societal upheaval, or protected, ensuring its survival while denying its immediate impact? The ethical dilemma was immense, a moral labyrinth with no clear path. The codex, cool and solid in their grasp, felt less like a prize and more like a sacred trust, a dangerous inheritance. As the first rays of the rising sun pierced the horizon, painting the jagged silhouettes of the ruined temple with hues of gold and crimson, the narrator stood, a lone figure against the awakening world. The codex was clutched in hand, a stark contrast to the burgeoning light. The final shot captured this poignant image. The narrator silhouetted, their form imbued with a newfound gravitas, the symbol of their immense burden clearly visible. A concluding reflection formed in their mind, a quiet echo of the wisdom contained within the codex. History, it seemed, was not a linear progression, but a series of repeating cycles, an eternal struggle between the forces of light and shadow, between truth and deception. The erasure was not a singular event, but an ongoing process, continually attempting to blind humanity to its true nature and its true perils. The codex was merely one battle won in an unending war for remembrance. Yet, a lingering sense of mystery remained, a compelling pull towards the unknown. The full contents of the codex were yet to be revealed, its ancient script awaiting deciphering, its pages holding further secrets, prophecies, and perhaps even solutions. The lost books were found, yes, but their existence now placed a heavy, dangerous burden on the narrator. This was not an ending, but a new beginning, a silent promise of future challenges and an ongoing solitary struggle for truth. The journey had ended, but the real quest had only just begun. The cosmos held its breath, awaiting the next chapter.